Hey, what's going on? Pat McLaughlin here from DrumlineChops.com, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to remove the snare side drum head of a marching snare drum. If you haven't watched the other video that I created teaching you how to remove the batter side or the top side drum head of a marching snare drum, I highly suggest that you pause this video and go watch that one first, where we really break things down and you really learn what all is going into changing a marching snare drum head. Alright? In this video, we're going to kind of breeze over it a little bit quicker and just talk about the specific things that apply to the snare side head that are different than the batter side. Okay? So again, if you haven't watched that video yet, go check that out first and then come back and watch this one. Okay? So, in this video, the first thing that we need to do to remove the snare side drum head is to release the snares from the head. Okay? The way we do that is you take this lever on the side of the drum, which is called the snare throw-off, and you're going to release it. Alright, so you're going to pull it basically up towards you. The drum is obviously upside down right now. Okay? So you'll see once you release that lever, the snares come up off of the snare head. Okay, which is exactly what we want. From that point, you're going to take this knob right here and you're going to start loosening it. Okay? And you'll notice that as you do that, the tension of the snare guts themselves start to become more and more loose. Alright? And you'll see this mount that the snares are basically connected to starts to slide forward and away from the knob. Okay? And as you continue to do that, the mount will actually completely unthread itself from the knob and become loose, like this. Alright? At that point, you're simply going to get the mount to come underneath any type of security bracket here you have, or just pull it out. And then you're going to take it from this other mount on this side and simply pull it out. Okay? There we go. So now the snares are completely removed from the drum. Alright? Which is exactly what we want. So you're simply going to take these, set them off to the side for now, because we won't need them for a little bit. Alright? So now that the snares are removed from the bottom head, the next thing we're going to do is actually remove the drum head. Okay, and we're going to do it the same way we removed the batter side drum head from the top of the drum. Okay, now that we don't have the snares in the way, the process is the same. Alright, so you're going to get your T key and you're going to start on one lug. Alright, you're going to do a quarter turn to the left, loosen it, and then you're going to go straight across from that tension rod, quarter turn to the left, next one over. Quarter turn to the left, straight across, quarter turn to the left. Okay? You're going to keep this process going, just like on the batter side drum head, to evenly reduce the tension of the drum head in, all the way around in an even fashion. Okay? So, I'm going to continue going with this, and once I get to a point where the tension rods are all loose, I'll pick you back up and bring you back in. Alright, so once you have completely loosened all of the tension rods and they're out of the lug casings, we're going to actually remove the rim and the old head from the drum. Okay? To do that, you're just simply going to place your hands or your fingers underneath the collar of the drum head and the rim and pull up. Alright, once you've done that, take one hand, set it underneath the old drum head, and the other hand around the rim, and simply remove the two. Okay? So now, this head is old. You no longer need this head. You can get rid of it. Alright? What we're going to do at this point is the same thing that we did when we changed the batter side head. And we're simply just going to get rid of all the dirt and dust and debris that has collected in the bearing edge and the rim and within the drum throughout the course of the time that the head has been on it. Okay? So I'm going to set the rim down, and then I'm simply going to grab an old rag, okay, and wipe down the inside of the bearing edge. Alright? Make sure that any debris and dust that has gathered there is kind of wiped clean, and it'll give us a nice smooth contact between the new head and the bearing edge, which is exactly what we want. Alright? This is also a good time to just clean the entire drum. Right? You know, if you just wipe down the actual finish of the drum and, you know, really get in between the lugs because it's a little bit easier to maneuver a rag or a towel or cloth around those things without the actual tension rods there. Okay, so just something to think about if you want to do that, to really take this time to clean the drum. Also, while the drum is open like this, to go in and tighten any loose nuts or bolts that are holding the lug casings or any of the hardware on the side. Okay, all these look pretty good. They're all pretty solid and well tightened, but it's always a good idea just to take a glance at them and fine tune anything that needs to be adjusted in here. All right. So now that we've got the bearing edge cleaned, I'm going to grab the rim again, and I'm going to wipe down the inside of the rim here. Okay. You just want to make sure that you're not losing any of the tension rods as you do this, and make sure it's all nice and clean. Okay, so now that I've got that done, I'm going to put the new head on the drum. Okay, so I'm going to get my new head here, and I'm simply going to seat this on the drum here, right? Remember, you always want to center your logos or put your logos in the same spot, or make sure they are where you want them to be when you put the new head on. Okay, so once I've got my logo aligned, I'm simply going to take the rim and place it on top of the new drum head. Okay, and you want to make sure that, especially with this bottom head here, these snare beds are aligned with the hardware properly. Okay, and what the snare beds are, you'll see the rim goes around and then it has a notch here, right? Well, that's where the snare guts actually come through the rim and lay across the head. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're not putting it on like this, because then when you tighten up the tension rods and go to put the snares back on, well, they won't actually be able to get through because you have a rim in the way. Okay, so just make sure that you always have the snare beds aligned properly with the throw off and mount. Okay, so once I've got that done, I'm going to apply my white lithium grease to each of the tension rods. And remember, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's just a small little dab for each one. Okay, so I'm just going to stick it in the top here a little bit, get a little bit on the bottom of it, and then stick it back down through the rim and into the casing. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then get all of them threaded into the lugs by finger tightening them, and then I'll bring you back in when we're at that point. Alright, so once you have put grease on all the tension rods and you finger tighten them, you want to make sure that you don't have any creases or wrinkles around the drum head that are uneven. Alright, so you want the drum head to be nice and flat and smooth at this point, with just a little bit of tension all the way across it. Okay, so one thing that you can do is just kind of run your finger lightly around the outside of the drum head close to the rim, and just get a feel for how tight or loose the drum head is in different spots. Now, one thing that you'll notice with the snare side of a snare drum specifically is back to these snare beds, right? And the shell is oftentimes actually dipped just a little bit to allow the snares to run a little bit flatter across the head, okay? So you'll notice as you move your finger around, once you get to those snare beds, it might just be a little bit of extra slack in the head at that spot, okay? So you can do this one of two ways. You can continue just to tighten all of the tension rods as we have been in a nice, smooth, and even fashion, always counterbalancing with the opposite tension rod, okay? One thing that I personally like to do on the snare side only is to just give these 4 tension rods a little extra tension at the beginning, okay? And the reason I like to do that is to kind of counterbalance some of that extra slack that is created just from the small dip in the snare bed itself, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and give these 4 tension rods just a little bit extra tension right at the get-go to get those off to a more level playing field. Okay, again, some people don't do that at all. Some people exaggerate it a whole lot. So it's up to what you want to do and what you feel comfortable with. That's just something that is a known practice to some people. So if that's something that you think makes sense, philosophically speaking, or even tuning-wise, get you the desired sound that you want, then go ahead and do that at this point, okay? So, once the head is smoothed out with an even amount of low tension across the entire head, we're going to start bringing the pitch up, right? Remember, we start on one lug, quarter turn or so, go straight across, quarter turn. Next one over, quarter turn, straight across, quarter turn, okay? You're just going to keep doing this over and over and over again until you start to get the pitch that you want and the tension across the drum head that you want. Alright, so I'm going to continue doing this for a couple times around, and then I'll bring you back in when we're ready to go. Alright, so once I get the head up to a comfortable tension and a pitch close to where I want it to be, what we're going to do is fine tune it and balance the head really quick. Alright, so all we're going to do that is take a drumstick and, like on the batter head, give about 2 taps to each tension rod and see where the pitch is of the head at that specific location. Alright, so I'm going to go around. Alright, and you'll notice that these two actually were the lowest ones out of the group. Okay, so I'm going to give those a little extra tension. Okay, and bring that pitch up a little bit. Let's see where it's at now. Okay, so still a little bit low, but better. Right? So you'll want to continue doing this process and just fine-tuning each individual tension rod and get them all as close as you can. Alright, now the next thing that you're going to do after you have balanced the pitch of the drum head and have gotten it up to a relatively moderate tension, you're going to take the snares and put them back on the drum. Okay? And to do that, we're basically going to do the opposite of what we did to take them off. Okay? So you're going to start with the snares in hand, okay? And you're going to simply put the side with the thread on it through this side first, okay? And you're going to pull the bracket through, and you're going to make sure that this side of the snare guts lines up appropriately with its mount. Okay? Then once that's there, you're going to slide this guy under here, and then make sure that it aligns with the notches in the snare throw-off mount. Okay? Now once that's in place, you're going to take the knob that was previously in the throw-off, and you're simply going to place it through its hole and start threading the plate holding the snare guts back in. Okay? You get that going, and you'll start to notice that some tension in the snare guts starts to happen. Okay? Now, one thing that you can do at this point is actually tune these snare guts individually. Right? I'm not going to get into it in this video because I've made another video specifically talking about tuning the snare guts. So if you're interested in doing that and really fine-tuning your marching snare drum, I highly suggest that you go check out that video as well. Okay, it doesn't have to be right at this moment. You can do it any time, but just so you know, there is another video where I teach you how to tune these snare guts. Alright? So I'm going to continue tightening this until the snares get to a relatively good tension, and then I'm simply going to throw the snare throw-off back on. Alright? So now we've got a new snare side head on, the snares are back on, the throw-off is nice and tight, and this drum is good to go. Alright? So I hope that this tutorial was helpful in teaching you how to change the snare side drum head of a marching snare drum, and I hope it's a lot less confusing for you now and that you feel confident changing your own. Alright? Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and please be sure to head over to drumlinechops.com and check out other ways of how to take care of your marching percussion equipment, improve your drumline teaching, and improve your own rudimental drumming. Alright? Thanks so much, and I will see you in the next video.